incredible panel lineup we have for this one. Thank you so much for your time. And yes, we are talking everything resilience. Not much time, sadly, as we're running quite a tight ship. However, Mohsen, let's start off with you. Now, I wanted to sort of set the scene in terms of like a general landscape overview in terms of from where you sit, which areas and parts of the global supply chain map do you think are being redrawn right now? It feels like it's always being rewritten, though. There's always something, right?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me here. I think the thing with global supply chain is the continuous change that's going to happen. It's not like something that is carved and it's going to stay. We're seeing that throughout many years, simply because people find different areas where the manufacturings are happening. You have growth in some other areas. I mean, if you come to particularly to here, sort of Middle East, Africa, and the Indian subcontinent, you're talking about almost half of the world's population within sort of a very close proximity. And post-COVID, you've seen production shift. Now we are here, the Indian globe. A lot of it has shifted to sort of India. Pharmaceuticals is definitely one thing the panel we're talking about. So that shift will definitely change. Another constraint you're going to have is the capacity when it comes to the supply chain network. Yes, there's one side is where you do manufacturing, and the capacity is how do you build that capacity. Now here where we come in the picture where we're building the new airport, Dubai South Al Maktoum International Airport, where we're trying to increase that capacity to do that sort of a cross trade between the region and on sort of a global scale.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, you've got a big job on your hand there. My goodness.
Yeah, just a correction. I only do the supply chain and logistics, that side of it. We have 3 different verticals that handle that.
Okay, interesting. But still a big job, my goodness. Moving over to Dr. Prakash. Where do you think trade corridors fail today, and who is positioned to really sort of fix which part? What do you think in terms of that general landscape overview? Where do we fail in all of this?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I think one key point of failure is the nodes of handover, right? Now, if you see this region, most of it is imported. And your poll just said speed is of essence for an e-commerce customer. So if speed is of essence, the transactions in the various supply chain nodes have to be seamless, have to be smooth, have to be transparent. The handovers between the various nodes really have to work efficiently. And that's where the failure happens. And that's where I think our region, UAE and Dubai as such, have an advantage. Like Mohsen was speaking about Dubai South. Now Dubai South, if you just take as an example, facilitates multimodal environment. They have business models, which cater to ocean, air, road. You say it's a multimodal. They provide a business model for businesses for seamless transaction and with speed, with efficiency, and with total transparency, security, and visibility. So that's the kind of business model governments need to build, and I think Dubai is a prime example. So anywhere where there's a handshake between supply chain in an international, a long supply chain with various handshakes, that's where the failures happen. And that's why we need to take care, put technology, put systems and processes in place.
I mean, e-commerce has completely disrupted the market in all of this. And the customer expectation has grown so much as well. Yeah. Cost, the speed of delivery and things like that. So it's really interesting to see how it's all changed over the years. But Vikrant, over to you. Africa, Middle East trade is very much changing and expanding, but corridor financing is very much fragmented. So what sort of specific risks have been blocking capital from flowing into sort of large logistics projects then, do you think?
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the question. We're stretching the discussion from India, Middle East, bringing in Africa, looking at the entire global south. And yes, there have been changes in the supply chain. Yes, the financing at times can have challenges. But as an African bank, we pride ourselves on being able to not only see the risks, but also see the nuances and the opportunities there. So if you see, Africa, we need to fix the perception. Now, if you think about Africa, there's a recent report The median growth rate in Africa is around 4.5%, which is much higher than the rest of the emerging markets. The upgrade to downgrade, the rating changes, it's about 3:1. So for every one downgrade in Africa, we've had 3 upgrades. So the infrastructure, the governance, the demographics, all are in favor of Africa. The financing in Africa has gone up in a big way, and more creative structures are being used now to finance the trade. So yes, there was fragmentation, yes, there were gaps in the financing, but of late, we've seen very large transactions happen, Dangote Refinery being one, in which our bank, UBA, was a key partner. That's a $4 billion financing that happened. And interestingly, that was led by an African consortium, right? Similarly, there was another refinery, a project that we financed in Tanzania, which was $400 million. We participated in that. We did a recent financing, $150 million we've committed in Kenya for the road project. So what I'm trying to give you here is a sense that financing is available. It's a question of understanding the nuances and putting the right structures in place. So financing isn't a gap as much as people often talk about.
I suppose the risks and the types of risks change all the time, don't they? And they vary, I suppose, from region to region. But Mohsen, back to you. What would you say is the biggest bottleneck then that you see today between ports and free zones and last mile operators, and how exactly is Dubai South engineering around that? What do you see as the biggest problem today?
I mean, the session before here were a lot about technology and IT, and we had the gentleman who talked about sort of understanding the client's requirement. I mean, today, everybody, the buzzword maybe is supply chain, but actually it's demand chain planning. It's how do you predict the demand and how do you, and that where technology comes in, where you're predicting, where you put in your stock. Now, whenever a cargo is moving towards the client, it's adding value. If it sits there, it's stagnant, he knows out of all the people, his cost of inventory goes up, and that's not something that they want to do. So technology is a challenge, is how do you get that synergies in between and try to get it. Now, it's still we're living in a physical domain. It's not the science fiction where you print a thing at home, but the physical is the capacity to move things around. Today, we have a big challenge, especially you mentioned about e-commerce. E-commerce in many airports, it used to be a special handling. Now it's becoming a normal way of doing business. I was in Singapore. E-commerce was probably a single-digit handling at their cargo terminal. Today, it's the main handling of their cargo. So the general cargo and e-commerce, they cannot distinguish anymore. So to handle that, you need technology. To handle that, you need sort of a system integration between and also to plan the capacity. Our biggest challenge is when countries have bilateral agreement is to decouple passenger bilateral flights, because that's one of the things that whenever they have the flight capacity for it, decoupling that from the cargo, so the cargo to be very free. That's a key where you get more connectivity. People, fine, countries can still have that. But when you free up the cargo, where we have more express, more people going, without taking up the slots, that could enable to trade, and it will help out in the sort of the cross border. And finally, is the pre-clearance across the cross border. If there are regular people in the US, they did this many years ago on sort of known shipper concept. And if you want to do it in the region where we have that pre-clearance, where the information is shared, and people can do the clearance right up.
Really interesting. I wanted to stick with the subject of e-commerce, of course, with you, Dr. Prakash, because, as we mentioned, it's very much disrupted delivery expectations. We've got same day, we've got next day. What type of corridor redesigns, in your mind, are really essential to all of this without burning any cost at the same time?
Yeah, if you see, I think in 2015, the norm was 5 to 7 days delivery, right? Post-COVID became next day delivery, and now people want same day or 15 minutes delivery, right? The quick commerce aspect, and it's no longer a premium. So, I mean, it will be a bit counterintuitive when I question this. Do you need an iPhone or a beauty kit in 15 minutes, right? But that's what the consumer wants. And unfortunately, we have to work from the consumer backwards, and we have to facilitate this. So, if you look at the e-commerce infrastructure ecosystem, I mean, to fulfill it, we have to look at it from the visibility point of view, from exposing the inventory to the consumer, what we call we have inventory at various nodes, right? We have in distribution centers, we have in stores, we have in transit. So we need technology to expose this inventory to the consumer wherever it is with different customer promises. So that's one big part in terms of the change which is required. Second is in terms of your network of fulfillment centers. So traditionally a single big DC was enough, say for a country like UAE, and then you distribute. But today when the speed is of so much essential, and people want the same day, next day, you have to have micro fulfillment centers. You need to spread your distribution centers across. You have to be close to the customer clusters, right? And that involves cost. That involves cost in terms of your inventory increases. So how do you optimize between speed and inventory? How do you build an optimum network? So that's a big question. Again, you require technology there, to build the right network, and you require automation. You require sort centers, to process the items, and the third part is of course the last mile and returns, right? That's the big chunk where we are really struggling, and that's the area where all the technologies which I think Shailesh just spoke about, AI, ML, pattern recognition, how to optimize the routes, how to utilize this, the trucks the best way, all these technologies come in to make last mile optimum. But having said that, it's very difficult business because, for the consumer now, everything is an impulse purchase because you really don't need to pay. There's something called cash on delivery. So he just feels like buying it, he'll say, okay, let me buy it. And then when the delivery guy goes to deliver, he says, I don't want it, or he's not available. So technology to even track the consumer, whether he's available, to take his payment. Just as a statistic, even for a prepaid shipment, it takes almost 1.3, 1.4 attempts to deliver the product to the customer. So the driver is taking the same product to the same house more than one time. So you can imagine how it affects, we talk about social responsibility, sustainability.
Yeah.
It's actually quite opposite, right? And in a cash on delivery, it can go to 3-4 times with 50% rejection. Conversion in a cash on delivery shipment is less than 50%. So you keep on making attempts, the product is returned. So it's very counterintuitive the way the consumer thinks. So I think there has to be some consumer awareness of what you need to order, how you need to order. So last mile is the most difficult piece. And we have various models. We're trying electric, we're trying bicycles, we're trying vans, we're making clusters, and then getting the returns back, right? That's another. So all this requires technology, and that's the technology which Shailesh was talking about. We really require intelligence, how to do it the most optimum way, how to optimize your routes, how to utilize your trucks, how to minimize the waste. And the last thing I just want to mention is we require capacity, right? So the consumer is wanting so many things, but we require drivers, we require space, we require, so these are for example, in this peak season in UAE, we are out of capacity in terms of drivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I was in a session today morning with both Kareem and Noon.
Yeah.
The guys are, in the next few years, they need 50 to 70,000 drivers.
Exactly.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and that's not related to Kita, who just came in, the Chinese ones, and then, of course, the rest of the guys. So it is a constraint, and that's where you might want to do sort of drone or pod deliveries or other sort of...
So autonomous deliveries, drones, these technologies are still, quite distant. But today, when the consumer wants, and I have demand, so I have drivers working 14 to 16 hours.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? I mean, it's not a sustainable model, but that's what's happening, and so something is going to break. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's a lot, isn't it?
I mean,
I hope
that's
not
a
the
reality.
glass in the room. Yeah.
But then hopefully,
But these are the challenges, and we really need to find solutions. And Mohsin is the right guy for that.
There he is, exactly.
I got
That's
him
why
on
we're
the
all
panel,
here.
so I'm just raising it.
It's good to have a client like him.
Yeah, there you go. No, but I mean, yeah, that's a lot. And hopefully we're going to have to try and push this technology forward at the end of the day if the whole place is saturated. And I suppose, yeah, really, really interesting to see the constraints and challenges that you go through. But very quickly, going back to Vikrant, now trade finance and working capital models were very much built for predictable transit times. What happens when suddenly, these trips take 7 to 10 days and, capacity drops? How is this making banks rethinking sort of risk and pricing at the same time?
Right. So thanks. I'll just, before I come to that, I just wanted to add that payments is also another point that's very important, right? You can't have supply chain discussions without strong payment rails. And that's something that we as a bank and Africa as a continent has done significant work in. And I'd encourage everybody to look at the Pan-Africa Payment System Network that's been created, that's brought transaction times down to a day from like 7 to 10 days, the cost down to a tenth of what it used to be. To address your question very quickly, and I know we're short on time, is yes, the payment cycles have increased, the working capital requirements have increased, but that's exactly where an embedded bank like us comes into play, where we work with our clients to understand what those nuances are, what is causing those delays, and we try and account for that. But at the same time, let me also bring in another positive dimension. The supply chain disruptions that you've seen have also resulted in supply being rerouted to some places in Africa where we've actually seen, and I can give you examples of Mozambique, Ivory Coast, Kenya, where the volumes of flow through those ports has gone up between 15, 30 to even 100%, right? So we also bank them. So for us as an embedded bank, our objective is to see the transaction from end to end, to understand it, to understand the realities of the world. Yes, there are delays at times, and we have to account for that. And as long as the transaction is visible, bankable, and understandable to us, we're happy to accommodate that.
Well, Sandy, yes, we have run out of time. I'd just like to very quickly take a look at the poll results just behind us. Maybe we could get those up. Here we go. When you order something internationally, what matters most? It's speed of delivery. There you go. People want things now. We are living in a society where everything is immediate and people want it now. And that is the disruption in the market, isn't it? So, yes, well, best of luck, gentlemen.
Instant gratification wins.
The speed of delivery is contradicting the rest of them.
Yeah.
Because with speed comes the cost, and it's not eco-friendly.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
With speed, it's very difficult to make money in logistics. Let me tell you.
We've got to change our mindset. Awareness, you mentioned as well. Maybe we just need to make sure we get everyone.
You will have a lady after this. She's expert on the e-commerce.
She is.
And you will enjoy that.
Thank
my
you,
dear
sir.
friend.
We're very much looking forward to hearing from her. But yes, sadly, we have run out of time. What a brilliant conversation. We cannot thank you enough for being with us.